I'm here with Marco of Xandria to talk about The Wonder Still Awaiting, out February 3rd on Napalm Records. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. It's great being with you.
Well, thank you for taking the time. And let's start off with perhaps the elephant in the room, I would say. A little bit of a new lineup, new changes. How hard was it for you to find the right pieces to make this puzzle that is the new Xandria?
Yeah, it was surprisingly, I wouldn't say easy, but I found the right people pretty quickly, actually, once I started. I was just asking musicians I know, if they know other people, other musicians that know other musicians, this kind of thing. And at some point, yeah, I had a few names and I was contacting them. And as we were all in lockdown times at that point, still, the first meetings were the same thing that we are doing right now. So we were just doing a Zoom or Skype or something, and we had long, good talks. And because for me, it was really important to get to know each other, not just to have good musicians, which they are really great on their instruments, but also to get to know each other. I wanted to have a bunch of people that can have fun together, that can enjoy the time together. And it turned out that it really got that way. And once we all met for the first time, like 2 hours in, just sitting, in a restaurant, having some nice pizza, some nice beer with it, we were feeling like we did that already a few times. So we had good talks, and we were really feeling like, okay, this is going to be great together. So the next steps were just enjoying the time together already. Like, it was not really hard work to start working together. That was a really great experience.
The chemistry was there from the beginning.
Yeah, you can actually really say that. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Now, did this lineup change impact the way you approach an album from a creative standpoint, or you're set in your ways and that kind of stay the same?
You mean if there was kind of a plan how it should sound?
Yeah, like did you approach the way you plan a record any differently because you have new band members with you, or the plan in terms of how you approach the creation of a record stay the same?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the process of creating the music was pretty much how I always did it in the past. Ideas just come to me in the weirdest situations, and then I have to record them on my phone so I don't forget them. And at some point I sit down to work on them. It's like all little musical dreams that I'm trying to bring to life, and I need to be a bit in my own universe for it. So I just did what I often did in the past, that I was just sitting down and to work on the music by myself until I found, okay, this is something that is presentable to others. And then I was including the others to bring in their parts, to bring their feedback. And this is when it actually starts to be working together on something. And that was, of course, a little bit different first because it was new people, and some of it we did from a distance. But nowadays it's not much of a problem. Like, you can send each other ideas, you can send each other parts, and then talk about it. And in the end, it all comes together. So it was kind of a challenge also because there was much more involved. There was the big choirs, there was the orchestrations, there were some other musicians involved who played Celtic instruments like whistles and Ilian pipes, and there were some Oriental instruments, and there was, of course, also the violinist of Subway to Sally, Ellie Storch, who did some really great recordings for the songs. And that was quite something to put this all together in the end, but yeah, somehow we managed.
A lot of logistics, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
When you look at specifically the sound of this record, what do you feel sets this album apart from the albums that came before?
Yeah, okay. This is something I would need to sit down and analyze it a bit myself, because actually I have not been thinking about these kind of questions at all when I was writing the new album. I was just looking forward and just gathering ideas, like I always did. So there must be some kind of connection because it's coming from mostly the same source. But I think the new album is a bit more diverse even. It's maybe a bit more serious and dark in tone sometimes. I also heard a lot already that people have the feeling that it's more heavy than before, which, yeah, could be the case. For example, I had some guitar riffs that were inspired by bands like At the Gates or Dimmu Borgir, or Emperor even, like I've always been a fan of more extreme metal bands also. So this is something that I also like to incorporate into the sound of Xandria often. And I think I did it even more than I did that before on the new album.
Do you see this record as the continuation of its predecessor, or for you, does every album have its own space? You don't look at continuing the momentum from album to album. You look at more of the creative standpoint individually from each records as they grow and as they become their own album.
I think when you listen to every Xandria album, first you need a few hours for that, because damn it, it's
just more than
like
a few.
20 years now since the debut came out. I realized that it's actually 20 years, and a lot of albums, that every album sounds a bit different. It comes from the same kind of basis, like musical dreams, certain kind of favoring of atmospherics, of film score elements. I think that was there almost throughout the entire history of Xandria. But every album was part of a development or an evolution, I think. I think I learned a lot as a songwriter in that times. Like on the first album, the songs were pretty simple, like very much like the typical verse, chorus, and very simple guitar riffs. And this is something that I also try to challenge myself a lot on the new album, to make it complex, to get out of my comfort zone a bit also, and try to improve as a songwriter, to do more things, to do a little bit more complex things than I did in the past. Like, you have, I was experimenting with key changes in the songs, not just the usual one step up in the last chorus, but for example, the title track, The Wonder's Still Waiting, which was our last single, it has, you probably won't believe it when you just listen to the song like that, but it has, if I count right, like 6 or even 7 key changes. And
Wow.
these are things that can sound a bit technical when you talk about it, but they have an emotional impact each time you do that. And in the way you do it, it is doing something with what you feel in that moment as a listener. And this is something that I found very, very interesting to do, more than I did in the past, to experiment with those things and to just incorporate it in my way of writing songs.
The last 2 records, I went back, I did my homework, I checked, and the last 2 records are the longest albums that Xandria has released, both of them around 74 minutes in length. A huge departure from the early beginnings of the band, where you guys were releasing albums around 39, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. What has changed for you that has pushed the last 2 records into that almost like a realm that we don't see anymore from bands releasing that kind of length of an album?
I can just say that for the new album, I had even more songs, and I even had to cut out a few.
Wow.
Yeah, because otherwise it would have become a double album. I mean, why not? But now that I'm talking about, I wasn't even thinking of doing that because we never did that. But yeah, I guess they will just be released maybe on an EP or something, because it was kind of hard to cut them out, because they're also, I think, quite nice songs, and my heart was in them, so I would not just put them in the trash. Yeah, anyway, yeah, so it could have become even longer. I don't exactly know what makes that difference, that like the first album, you're right, it was like not even 40 minutes, I
No, it was
think, something like that.
39
Yeah,
and change.
yeah, true. I don't even know why. It's just I must have had just many more ideas. Maybe it was the lockdown, the pandemic. Um, I was also just diving into a lot of different things. There was first a lot of time, and then there was a lot of time to just get inspiration from different sources. For me, it's also like movies. I love film scores. I love the atmosphere that film score is creating together with a movie. And this is a huge influence for me in Xandria. And like series which are in the level of, let's say, yeah, production wise and how they are made, are now on the level of big Hollywood movies even. So they also become quite a source of inspiration. For example, one song on the album, it's actually the opener, Two Worlds, which we will release um, together with the album release. We will release it as an extra single we are right now in the process of doing a video for that. It's a 7-minute song, and it's very, very epic film score like.
Yes, yes.
Even more actually than the 4 singles that we already released. And this is also the reason why we want to put out that one too, because we want to show that to people. Because mostly if you release singles, they are rather the more
Correct.
yeah, short or compact songs, even though if you look at them, they're all longer than 5 minutes. Maybe Wonder Still Awaiting is actually exactly 5 minutes, I think, but still they're a bit longer than what we did in the past. And this was also something that I wanted to do, that every song is like a little bit of a journey, that there's more to it than just a verse and a chorus or something. And but this song is doing that even more. And we want to show that side of the new album also, that people don't miss out on that, that it's goes even more far. And there's also like an almost 10-minute song in the end of the album, which is also something very, very film score like what we are doing there. And yeah, I'm really excited what people will think of that.
It was really interesting because when I was listening to it, I felt at times, because of the dynamics of the song, I felt that was one point in time I was like, oh, is this a new song? And then I was like, no, it's still the same song, because it kind of takes you through not just a roller coaster ride, but it gives you very different momentums within the song that almost feels like a little bit of a trailer to a movie, which gives you some synopsis of what the movie is all about. And the song kind of had those characteristics, which was really interesting.
Yeah, you're right. I would even say, or the way I like to put it is that each song is a little bit like a little soundtrack for a little movie. And when you listen to it, you can have all those pictures in your mind. And I had those when I was writing the songs. And I think, and I hope that the people will have that too when listening to the songs.
And that takes me to my next question. I mean, we live in a time where people have short attention span, and to listen to a record from beginning to end that pushes that 74-minute mark, a lot of people will feel, myself included, sometimes it feels a little bit too much in terms of the playability of pressing play again and going back to the beginning. Are you worried about that, or you think most people are going to listen to the record on Spotify and just listen to singles, and therefore the overall length of the record doesn't really play that much of a factor?
Yeah, that opens up a whole new topic actually, like how the perception of music changed in the last few years. It was already funny, like coming back with Xandria after like 5 years hiatus, and finding that our record label is doing things in a complete different way nowadays. Like you release more singles. Back then we had one actual video per album, not more. And now we are creating the fifth even.
Yeah.
And this is a lot due to the habits that changed how people listen and on what platforms they listen. Like on Spotify, you have all those playlists. Like Spotify picks for you what you should listen to when you want to explore a band. And I'm not sure if it's the best way actually to explore music. Back then in the 90s, I went to a record store and I was going, to the shelf of metal music, and I was looking at the covers. Wow, this cover looks amazing. So I bought it just even sometimes without knowing what's on it. And then because I spent some money on it,
You
I
have to
also
listen
felt
to it.
motivated. Yeah, I had to listen to it from the start to the end, if it was good or not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the
Yeah.
same boat as you. I did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and but in most cases it was good, of course, because there was a lot of interesting music in the 90s, especially in metal, like with bands trying out new things. I was a lot into those bands like Paradise Lost, Anathema, Tiamat, The Gathering. These were the bands that influenced me a lot at this time. And they were evolving with each album. And each time I went to the store and bought a new album, it was like, okay, how are you going to surprise me now? And this was very exciting. And sometimes I miss it a little bit nowadays because a lot of bands are kind of stick to their thing. They don't really try out new things, which sometimes is great because this is just how you love them and how you want them to be. I mean, it's always a little bit of a difficult thing for a band because once you stick with what you're doing, people say, you get boring. And once you do something else, people say,
You never win.
yeah, you never win. So the only thing you actually can do is just try to win yourself, like with what we are doing, like enjoy what you are doing. So with the new songs on our new album, I just try to do what I love. So if people won't like it in the end, I at least did what we love. We did it together, and we can be proud of it and feel those feelings that we had when we were recording, creating it. So it doesn't matter that much anymore. So nothing can really hurt that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And yeah, about your initial question, we went a little bit apart from it, or I did. Um, I think if there's a difficulty in listening to an album of that length, maybe just listen to half of it today and save the rest of it for the next week or something. And I mean, if you have something which is that long, it's almost like two albums in one. It's almost like a double album. But yeah, you see, I'm just trying to get a grab on that somehow.
Yeah, it's difficult because when I was listening to the album, I felt like this record is all singles. Like they're honestly, I mean, I know it's difficult to release a single that's 10 minutes in length, but that's not because of
Yes,
the quality of the song. It's because just the way the business is. But when you look
true.
at the content of this new Xandria album, every song could be a single. So it's not like it doesn't lack quality. No, if one thing, it has too much quality. It's just every song is a
Thank you.
single. It's just that the length of it, normally when you sit and you listen to it, you enjoy it. But at the end of it, because of the length, it doesn't have that, at least for me, my own personal opinion, right? It's hard for me to say, oh, let me go listen to it again, because I just invested 74 minutes to really get through it, because it's also a hard album to stop playing it. Because it's so good, you want to listen to every song until there's no more
Oh, all
songs
right.
left. So it's an interesting record from that point of view. It really puts you in a conundrum. You're not really sure what to do, you know?
Thank you so much for saying that. That is really giving me a lot back of what I put in it, what we all put in that record. Um, that you really perceive it like that it gives you that much. That is really, really great and wonderful to hear. Thank you. Yeah, now I get how you meant it initially, that And it's true for me. It's also every song can stand on its own. Every song on that album has its own story, its own reason why it has been made. No song on that album has been made because of, hey, okay, we have been writing our singles and now we just need to fill up the album somehow. Not at all. As I said, we were even leaving out some songs, and these songs are actually also some that were like close to our hearts. So yeah,
Interesting.
I guess I just have to leave it to the people how they deal with that.
Exactly. You know, everybody's going to take what they want out of it. And that's the beauty of an album like this. And I have to ask you, you've worked with some incredible vocalists. How was it working with Amber on this record?
Yeah, that was really great because she has this ability of doing these different things with her voice. She can growl, she can even do the classical thing also. So we can also live perform the old songs in the way they were meant, and we can still incorporate that in the new songs. Like, but overall, I wanted a little bit of a change to more vocal diversity. I think you can hear that. Of course, people are used to the classical vocals on the last few albums, but for me as a songwriter, it was important to do a little bit more than like, just that. I mean, classical vocals are great, and especially with those bombastic arrangements, um, they really fit to bring this majestic atmosphere out. They really underline it. So this is also when we felt in the new songs it needed to do that. We were doing it. And we had fun doing that in the studio. Like, okay, sure, I sing this more classical. Yeah, in that part, let's try that. We were experimenting with it even a bit. But some other parts, they just need a little bit more, um, yeah, direct vocals that are, because classical vocals, they are very like on a technical level, they need to be perfect. This is like how they are measured by. And uh, yeah, I actually don't really know a name for non-classical vocals. Like people often say rock or pop vocals to it. Um, but they are, of course, a little bit less technical, but more emotional. They touch you a little bit more direct with different kinds of emotions like fragility or anger. It comes through a lot with other types of vocals, and this palette I wanted just to have as a songwriter for the new Xandria album, and she was just bringing it all, and which was just amazing to work in the creation process because I knew her voice already. The other musicians, they came into the band when I actually finished the songwriting already, but they still contributed some ideas, of course, with on their instruments. But with Amber, it was a bit different because she was there when I started with the songwriting, because we were working on another musical project together in which I got to know her voice and also her ability to do those different things. So when I started writing New Xandria songs, I had her voice in my mind sometimes automatically. And so it was a little bit like bringing together two things that kind of were already there. And fortunately, she was up for it also. And we were trying it. We were recording her voice, and it was so great to see how it worked out, and to see how different parts in the songs could just get their very own character by these different kinds of things she can do.
I think you guys did a phenomenal job from that front because you said it earlier that this album is very diverse sound-wise. I would say it's very rich sound-wise, and it's as rich vocally. And that it, to me, it's needed. If you have an album that sound-wise is going to be that rich, you have to have the vocals that are as rich as the sound. Otherwise, it's going to be very unbalanced.
Yeah, that's true. Like on the last album, we had the song "We Are Murderers," which was a bit heavier and darker, and we had the guest vocalist Björn from Soilwork in there to do the growls. So you sometimes can do it that way. You can just get guests, and by that reach that kind of diversity in vocals. But I think we had 3 different vocalists, or even 4 on the last album. And but it was just great that on this album, most of it could just be done by the actual singer of the band. We have one guest appearance though on vocals in the title, in the song titled "You Will Never Be Our God." It's Ralf Schepers from the German metal band Primal Fear, and that is a bit special. I mean, Alma could have been pulling up that song on her own. It's just that this song has this chorus, which is very much 80s metal style. It has this classical vibe to it. The guitar riff is even a little bit like Accept or Judas Priest style. And so we were thinking, hey, we just need to enhance that even more, to just put that even more in the spotlight. And it would be just sounding great to have 2 voices there that are doing this kind of thing, like a power female voice and a power male voice doing this power metalish kind of thing there. And that was really great to do also.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to have guests, but when you have somebody that can almost do it all, you're almost better served that way. Marco, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about the band, to talk about the record. The album comes out February 3rd on Napalm Records. Go check it out. Go check out the singles. Thank you once again, and all the best.
Thank you too for having me.
Thank
you for your support.
Take care. Take care.
Take care too.